Here we are. We're back. Jeremy Boone. Good morning.
Morning, buddy. How
We
are you?
don't normally. I'm doing well. It's cold. It's cold here in Tennessee. How are you feel? How's Texas right now?
Super cold. I was in Scottsdale last week and it was 75 and sunny. I worked
Dude,
by the pool and I was like, why did I ever leave this place? Like, what was I
worked by
doing?
the pool. Worked.
I mean, I was on calls, I was answering emails. I was like remember that product manager who went famous, for working by the pool a few years ago?
Yeah, I think this is like the era where all of our companies like went wrong. It was like, why
Yeah.
can't you? Why can't you work by the
Why
pool?
can't you work by the pool in a bathing suit?
What's wrong with your business where you can't do this?
That's right. So that was me. I was the stereotype that everyone hates.
It's uh it's unfair. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about cities. We've done our geography beefs before. Right now, from like November through February, I feel like Scottsdale is like unbeatable.
It's the place to be this time of year. It's a 10 out of 10. Even if you aren't a fan of it, like you still wish you were there.
What if, as like a guy nearing age 40, you just are like, I'm full snowbird. I'm buying like an RV. I'm migrating to Scottsdale every 8 months for like a 4 month swing.
It's a move. I mean, there's people doing that right now. I wouldn't get an RV. I'm not an RV guy. I'm not like an outdoorsman. I would just straight up have two apartments.
You have a condo. You have like
I'm
a
a condo guy. Yeah.
townhome.
Townhome guy. Just I'd have it right by, Old Town, Scottsdale. Just be bopping around, hanging out with all the
New
ASU
Boone
peeps.
strikes me as a big time HOA guy. Big HOA.
Like I'd be on the HOA.
No, actually, what I actually mean is that you buy some townhome somewhere that you have to be forced to be part of an HOA, but you have like a custom made like don't tread on me sign like
That's yeah.
in your tiny little yard of the town.
I would be the HOA's worst nightmare. I'd make them quit.
You're filing like injunctions for every time they have a meeting.
I'd be busting out the legal chops. HOAs as like a principle are against everything I stand for. So yeah, yeah, you don't want to see that. My goal is never to have an HOA or be a part of one.
It's funny the vehemence that people feel about them. But your point about everything you stand for, principles. We've got some current events over the last many days. For the people who we're recording this on a Wednesday morning, we're in the days and hours after shocking events in New York of a public company, United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson being killed on video in the streets of New York. Well, now we're like, what, 16 hours after the name of the alleged suspect,
Alleged.
You just bring up the, everything you stand for, Luigi Mangione, I think.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
know if that's right, but close. But what are your thoughts? This is like an unraveling story. We haven't really done unraveling stories before, but what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, BT, I don't know if you know this, but that Brian Thompson, I looked it up the other day. He went by BT.
Well, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it's a
So
little too
that's
close
not what
to
they're
home there.
saying on the internet yet. So I'm just gonna let that. Or
Yeah, I was worried about you. I was like, this might be getting a little too close to home for our boy here.
I don't think I'm assassination material yet, but something to strive for.
Yeah, well, no, you wouldn't have gone out like that. You'd have personal security and shit around you, obviously. But yeah, I definitely a bizarre and weird story. Where was I when I heard about it? I think I was actually in Scottsdale. I was in Scottsdale last week. Yeah, I mean, listen, this Luigi guy didn't kill that guy. I can guarantee it.
Whoa, we're going conspiracy corner. I thought we were going a whole different direction here. Okay,
Absolutely,
okay,
absolutely.
unpack this
And
for me. I'm
I
actually
haven't,
shook right now by this.
yeah.
I'm in a daze.
This will tell you a lot about the way I think and the way I perceive the world. My interpretation of this story, and it's very simple. anytime the mainstream media rallies around someone and has bulletproof evidence that they are this is the guy that did it, and the person that did it, like all their socials are still up, like all that good stuff, it just makes me question the entire narrative. It's like when
You
they
think
found the
you think this is too easy?
it's like when they found the Middle Eastern terrorist passport at the base of the World Trade Center. Like they like acted.
Don't take us into this.
I'm
Don't
gonna
take
take
us
it.
in the realm of this podcast where we're doing a
Just
different
think
thing.
about it, dude. You're in it.
Current events.
Yeah. I'm gonna
You're in
draw.
conspiracy corner right now.
I am in conspiracy corner. But long story short, I fade whatever the mainstream narrative is on things. I don't believe it. I think I want to know. I have questions. Who is Brian Thompson about to testify against in court? You know, who I don't know any of these answers.
In an active court case? Is this a thing?
Probably.
Or you just say okay, probably.
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 Yeah.
Sure. They're saying.
Yeah. And there was an interesting thing where they were like they're alleging this guy was dumb enough to like pull his mask down, flirt with a girl or something like that, like at a train station. That's how they identified him. There's another interesting thing I saw before they identified Luigi, where there's some guy the assassin got away on a city bike, right? And some guy in New York was tracking. He built a like data scraper that was actually tracking all city bikes,
Interesting.
drive. So I'm more interested in like following that rabbit hole, but I haven't delved deep into it, but I can say that in the
sound like
past,
you're pretty deep. It sounds like you're pretty deep.
this is like if just my Twitter feed, just at a glance, it's just all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I really don't believe that sort of stuff. I really don't. I don't think it's.
You don't believe that he is the actual suspect because you're saying you don't believe this because it's been so packaged by the mainstream media.
Neatly packaged, neatly delivered. One other thing I saw today, this guy has ties to Nancy Pelosi,
the suspect,
grandfather.
But you're still out. You still think he's not the guy.
I still think he's not the guy. No.
Okay, because I thought you were kind of like that was like a leading in, but no. Okay.
No. I
took
don't.
this in a whole different direction than I expected. I'm honestly bewildered. Let me. So I thought one of this principle that was my kicking off point to get into this. I'm interested in your take on like this. To me, obviously tragic situation for the victim, unknown situation for the suspect Luigi. There's like a manifesto. There's like some sprinkling. You're out on all this. You're just shaking.
Yeah, dude. He had the manifesto and the murder weapon on him allegedly, right? Like on him, on his person.
Well, the thing that I thought we'd get to, and maybe I'll just push us there, is like we're in a clearly period of populism as like in our political spectrum. I mean, I think that I think agree. Trump is certainly a populist figure. Bernie Sanders was a populist figure. Quite a few people who are at least visible constantly in politics right now. AOC, maybe we'd call it Marjorie Taylor Greene, even like, kind of on the fringe of both parties. I thought this to me is like this weird crossover where all of a sudden something happens, a thing happens, and like the discourse online, I'm actually like kind of blown away by, if you're on X or Twitter or Reddit or even Instagram, which I don't feel like in my feed is not super political, but I'm like, this is a wild public response to how this has gone down.
I've noticed the same thing, and it's very disturbing. I have like close friends or family members that were very like pro this happening, and it really rattled me. Those same people were very pro that they were cheered on the Trump assassination attempt, if that tells you anything about them. So but no, it is very alarming. It's like this guy's the CEO of a public traded company. He has one job, and that's to, drive up the value for his shareholders. He was doing his job, regardless of what you think about his, what he was doing. Like, it's the way the system is. Go fight the system in an ethical way. Don't go resort to murder. And I don't I suspect something more nefarious. I always do. I don't ever really believe these lone gunmen type deals. I do agree with you that like I think there's like this weird rising violent sort of ideology that I've seen a lot from the left. Look at the two Trump assassination attempts. This was a left wing sort of, you could say sort of mindset that it seems allegedly that led to this. And yeah, I think it's dangerous for sure. I think, I don't know why people think that would ever support that, So I was saddened by it. I was alarmed by it. I think people were sending me memes about like, oh, like, if you're the Costco CEO is safe, the, so-and-so CEO is
Yeah.
safe. But I was like, it's not really funny because like you shouldn't like your life shouldn't be at risk for being a business leader. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
right. It's a well, that's and that not that political leaders should be at risk. They should not be. But like,
No.
there's this weird crossover. Yeah. Well, the thing that I thought, and I think I'm not a political scientist. You're certainly more well read than me, and you and I disagree politically, probably on a variety of things right now. But like, there's this interesting blend of like, it wasn't like the sentiment that I was seeing online was like all of a sudden it was like big business, rich people are bad. And I'm like, this
Yes.
is a weird blend because that is, if you look at, we're kind of in like whatever cabinet announcement season. I think like 14 of the 18 Trump appointees are like billionaires. I'm like, there's this weird populist shift that almost I think the a frightening aspect of it or element of it is like, it's kind of directionless. It's just like everything, in this case, insurance companies are bad, rich people are bad. Like it's a weird uh amorphous, just general like anger or whatever. Like energy.
Yeah, it is. And that's the most dangerous type of energy is just a weird directionless
Yeah.
anger because it's going to get harnessed by something and put towards nefarious use. I definitely agree with you though that like I mean I know the big issue people had with Brian Thompson or whatever was that they raised the rate of like claim rejections a ton, and I get the people being upset with that, but it's like you can't go kill your landlord because they raised the rent on you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really unhealthy. And I think it's sad because it goes back to the economy's been really bad. I think a lot of people are hurting financially. And so that would partially explain, this antipathy towards people who are very successful and big business leaders who are perceived as like, really kind of just shitting on the little guy. But like, that's not right. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, that's really, you're basically absolving yourself. You have to go out and make some of yourself on your own, succeed on your own. You can't just try to bring other people down. And that's what the directionless mindset. I heard this great analogy the other day about it's not an analogy actually. It's like it was actually a scientific study where like they put a monkey in like a space with a bunch of other monkeys who were climbing trees to get bananas. And when you put the new monkey in the space and the new monkey goes up to try to climb the banana, the other monkeys pull him down. They don't want him getting the banana, which is like a sort of analogous, I think, how humans are, where like people who are really going for it and succeeding, sometimes like people just want to pull them down.
Was this real or was this just a meme on our conservative?
No, this is a real meme. It applies to entrepreneurs. It's like really so, but yeah, I mean, people who are succeeding in business or whatever, like that's like let them be. You know what I'm saying? They're not your enemy. If you don't like your healthcare provider, go get another healthcare provider. You know what I'm saying? Like don't
That's
this
the
is
pro-capitalist movement.
yeah.
How does someone else come in and take the air of a company that is maybe negatively impacting their customers and provide a better experience? And those people, historically in business, we see them win. And assuming that you have a relatively fair and equitable system of capitalism. I think you said something interesting, which we're like way off the track that I thought we planned on going on, or I planned on going on, excuse me. But like, I think there is this populist movement, and unlike past period, like when you're in the period, I don't think you can like realize it, but like right now, I do think that there's this directionless angst, and I think I don't know that we're gonna have it in the cycle because I haven't heard anyone who's out there pushing for it, but like we need as a country, as a society, at least, it's like we need the next goalpost. It's like it's great to have we're going to the moon. That's like the easiest one to
Yes.
reference, or whatever it is. And like we don't have that as a society. And when you don't have that, when you've got, you know, angst, certainly a series of different changes that are happening, whether it is economically, whether it's AI coming, whether it is, politically shifting sands, like there's no like this is how we're going to be awesome. This is how we're going to measure
Hmm.
our success. I think we need that. I think we need
We
that, like, that line that like we're going to go plant this flag by doing X, and we don't have that.
No, we don't. And I think people have seen, probably on the left, there's a huge hatred towards big business, a perception
Yeah.
capitalism is bad in general.
I
And then
think
on
it's
the
on
right,
both sides. As like in the tech world right now, how often are pick your big tech company, they're all demonized by the right, whether you're
yeah, but I think
or
they're not
like,
demonized. They're not demonized for making money. I think they're demonized for like trying to like sway, like for like canceling people or censorship or things like that, which are really a separate matter from like we're just making money. So that's from at least from what I've heard. To your point about we need something to go for, something to strive for, I completely agree. I think that right now, you look in the last year, how much money we've given tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, where hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, a ton of money to Israel. We've given $750 checks to people who were wiped out by the hurricane in North Carolina. Um, I think what I've seen recently from the Trump camp, I don't know if you've seen him talking about Canada and taking over Canada and Mexico. Like that, there's your goalpost right there. Let's go westward, northern
I
and
don't know.
southern
I guess
expansion.
we just
Manifest
keep
that.
with I guess we just keep with the current events. Like, yeah, I mean, once again, separate sides, but you know what? Hey, if a guy has a good idea, I'm all for manifest destiny. I'm all for manifest destiny, as unpopular and as that would be. Canada's great. It's gonna be.
Hey,
I said this jokingly in our group text the other day. It's gonna be really nice up there. 20, 30, 50. That's gonna be really good. Alberta. Why not?
we got to talk about the fact that about 3 years ago, you, me, Vlahos, some of our good friends were in a restaurant in Scottsdale talking about how we needed to invade Mexico.
Well, I'm gonna walk back the invasion part, and
May not invade, but
gonna say
buy Mexico is what
make
it
make
was.
a great deal. Could we make a
Yeah,
great deal? We didn't invade to get the Louisiana Purchase. We purchased it.
right.
We came to an agreement. And I think so. We have a great history of figuring out ways that are potentially mutually beneficial. I'm in on this. Like, to me, this is obvious. Like, I could even do like a little bit of a, you know, political worldview. Certainly, the upcoming administration is going to be antagonistic to China, wants to um, certainly reshore a lot of manufacturing, bring manufacturing back. Whether I think that's fully true or not, I don't think it's a bad goal. I don't think it's like a bad thing to be trying to do. And I think the reality is since the late '80s, but certainly since the '90s, we've pushed a lot of that. We've pushed a lot of at least U.S. manufacturing to south of the border, and in some cases even north of the border with NAFTA. I think some type of, whether it was a joint process or a like economic zone where we have all of this manufacturing base, which is now in like Monterey and all the way to the Pacific side of Mexico. That actually could make a lot of sense. I don't know if that's like very real. It's very hard to judge the president elect's plans based on his True Social posts, as he's called the governor of the 51st state or whatever he said the other day. It's hard to figure out, okay, how much of this is real, how much of this is just
Pandering, yeah.
yeah, trolling. I don't I don't know.
Troll.
Here's a question. Like, do you think, I'll take the politics out of it for a second. Do you think he actually is typing these things? Or is he just dictating it to someone else who's typing it?
That's a great question.
I go ahead. I'm actually fascinated by this.
Listen, I love to think he's typing him himself. I mean, he's been tweeting for so
78
long.
years old. Have you ever
Yeah.
what does it look like when your parents text? When Chris is texting, is it fast?
I mean, the fat thumbs are happening. I mean, Trump's been tweeting. Listen, he was posting legendary tweets like 12 years ago. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to see him seeding. He seems like someone else who likes to be in control too. It's hard for me to see him seeding his account to anyone. And so I would say 80% chance he's typing himself, 20% chance he's dictating it. And, but the nice thing is, it's 100% him. Like, that these are unfiltered thoughts.
I think
very
he
clearly
is good at the, I'll make the case for someone else does it. And I'm not on True Social. I see all this on other places. Like his use of all caps. When I see these things, like I'm like, that has to be like an intern who's like, he meant that to be all caps. he wanted that, like, because he has to be saying that, and then someone's just like interpreting from across the room, like, quickly typing it in.
Yeah. I would love to know. There has to be, someone should find this would be a great journalistic story, is how does Trump tweet, or truth, or whatever. He's back on Twitter now. He's been tweeting.
Is he back?
So, yeah.
Don't dead name X.
I'm going to keep dead naming it, dude. I've been calling it Twitter since college. I'm like, it's too late. Sorry, Elon.
That's fascinating. Speaking of Elon is, well, I actually, I don't know if he's been back to your fine new home state since, but he's been pushing for I'm actually curious about this. Like, Elon may be the president of the United States right now, acting president or upcoming. He is all in on Texas. Mm-hmm. He's all in on re-establishing, or I guess re-headquartering his companies in Texas, which he does a handful. You are now in Texas. Your company, Tesla, has moved to Texas, I believe. Maybe not every single person, but a number. Do you think Texas is the future? I want to say startup. Maybe there's even a small business, but like startup capital of the United States.
That's a great question. I've only been here for 2 months. I'll say that with the caveat. But yes, Tesla did. Already bought a truck.
Do you have a pair of boots?
The boots are coming for Christmas. I do.
Do you have a 10-gallon hat?
No, I have a gun holster though, and I'm working on getting a gun, so it's coming.
Working on is, can't you just go to like the gas station?
You can pretty much stand here. No, I love this question, and it made me think when you posed it. I think there's a great case to be made for it. If it's not going to be California, it's going to be Texas.
Okay.
So there's two things right now. I mean, you have to make the argument that Texas going to keep leaving California, right? And then you have to make the argument that they're going to come to Texas and not choose to go down.
So you think this is by import of Californians?
I think there's so much institutional. I mean, there's so much institutional tech, like from VCs to companies to whatever in the Bay Area. I mean, really, we're talking about the Bay Area when we talk about California and tech. There'd have to be some sort of migration. So I do think there's a couple things working in favor for Texas. One, when I think there was a tipping point when Ricky Pearsall, the first round draft pick for the San Francisco 49ers, got shot in broad daylight in downtown San Francisco. Like, you and I are from Memphis. Like, we're from the most dangerous city in America, and we were shocked by that. San Francisco is so poorly governed right now that with the fentanyl crisis, with I think the cost of living there is insane. The taxes are terrible. There is ample reason to drive people out of San Francisco. It's not going to get better. I mean, the reason people are going to stay is because of like just the local network and maybe like
Well, just
attachment. But
meaningful.
it is meaningful. But here's the thing about tech. You're talking about like this is where the innovators live. They're not, there's going to be people like Elon who are going to say, you know what, let's do something different. Let's find a unique advantage, that I can leverage. And Texas offers that 0% state income tax, cost of living dramatically lower. I think Texas
What about
also,
Austin? No, Austin is expensive.
it
Like
is, but I
if you're
mean,
doing like you definitely have. I think the thing that you mentioned, like the network, like network density in San Francisco, with just the general Bay Area. I mean, certainly South Bay all the way to city proper. I mean, when we were just getting into startups for like, for those outside, like the city of San Francisco was not the venture capital startup hub. It was really South
yeah,
Bay.
yep,
It was down the 101, really Palo Alto, Mountain View. And I think we could say in the early to mid 90s, San Jose was, and it kind of was creeping north. And then really our generation of young people at the time getting into startups wanted to move to San Francisco for a variety of reasons. Like they wanted to be part of a city. A lot of those like exurbs in between San Francisco and San Jose are really, you know, they're moderately dense, but they're really like suburbs of if you were, in Chicago or something like that, or certainly in New York. So there was like this weird pull to, or a very, very clear pull, I'd say, to the urban density lifestyle options in downtown San Francisco or San Francisco, south of Market and Soma,
mm-hmm.
Castro area, kind of like all these different pockets. And I do, what's interesting about Texas competing with San Francisco is you do have, I'm curious your take, but like you have two metro areas that are very competitive and have some of that same stuff. Austin certainly has it, which has been the historic tech hub.
Right.
Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex has two things, but it's largely suburban, very
Right.
suburban, super spread out. Like the thing that you're talking about the political side more of it. I kind of wonder, like, do the people who want to, there's a certain type of person who wants to go start companies. And historically, those people are like close to recently out of a university, some type of research. Maybe they're at, some type of other company and then started their own thing. And that has been that's been the Boston story. That's kind of the New York story. San Francisco has a blend. Like, do you think Texas can recreate that?
Great question. I think can. I think Austin has already proven it. I mean, when I'm in Austin, it feels like it is a tech hub through and through. And, to your point, it can expand out. Like maybe it's going to be Round Rock, or
Yeah.
whatever is going to be the next big thing down there. But I actually want to talk about the cultural aspect too of Texas. There's an important thing here. California, when it became the tech hub of America, there's this fascinating thing about California, which I learned about when I lived there, which, 50 years ago, California was considered like the most American of all the states. It was like kind of like in a very like significant metaphorical way, it was like the logical extreme of America. It was the end of America. It was the West Coast, and it was like sort of like where dreams come true, right? Like whether it was Hollywood or you had the beach, you had tech. It was this land of like a lot of people who had migrated there from other places to fulfill their dreams, pursue their dreams. So that's very much what it was culturally. And what's kind of emerged, I think Texas has kind of emerged culturally as like this sort of new, like the most American of all the American states, where it still has that sort of Wild West vibe. It sort of has that like it's the space, it's the vastness, kind of like California has the vastness. I mean, Texas is a vast state, and there's all kinds of people here. I think Austin's really been it's benefited from its reputation as like keep Austin weird. Like everyone's welcome here. And so that's part of the reason I think it's become the big thing instead of Dallas Fort Worth or Houston or whatever. So I could see Austin becoming like the San Francisco of Texas. And then you've got the LA 3 hours up north, in Dallas, you've got Houston nearby. There's so much money here. It's unbelievable. So I don't think it's going to be like quick. I don't think it's going to be in the next, 5 years, but I do think over time, I don't see the trend reversing. I don't see it going back to being the way it was. I see it continuing to grow here and probably eventually overtake California at some point down the road in our lifetime.
It's interesting. A counterpoint, you'll remember this because you also have ties here, but like South Florida, and this is, I don't know, this is kind of into the COVID sphere. There was this massive move. California was becoming much more restricted during which you had a bunch of people who hopped into Texas or Colorado, even like Montana. They hate the Californians there because they all moved and bought expensive houses with cash. Like
Yes.
South Florida had the same thing. And in our world, at least in like the startup world, venture world, there were all these people from California, certainly New York, Massachusetts, who were flocking to Miami specifically. And I feel like that actually like has kind of petered out. Like I feel like Miami, they couldn't do Miami for
No,
whatever reason.
and I want to say, I knew when that was happening, I knew that was never going to work. I knew, as someone who has lived in South Florida 3 times, lived in Fort Lauderdale, I was like, this is hilarious. They're even trying this. So for all kinds of reasons, Miami culturally you couldn't be more opposite than the Bay Area. All the things that make the Bay Area great for being a tech hub, Miami doesn't have that. Miami's like the scumbag capital of America. It's a great place for scumbags, people who are running scams, like people who are trafficking drugs. Miami's awesome. People who don't actually want to work, and just want to
That's the
pretend like they
thing.
have money on Instagram. Great place. But people who are trying to build stuff, you can't do it. The weather's too nice. There's too many distractions. No one around you like actually cares or gives a shit that you're building tech. They just want, to go to Club 11 and party and, do coke with you till 3 in the morning. It's not going to work. So Austin doesn't have that. Austin's a whole different animal. It's got like the weather is a little bit more like the Bay Area. It's
oppressive in the summer. The
it's
weather part
oppressive.
is a good point on Florida.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the best. That was the most succinct takedown of South Florida culture I've ever heard. None of those things were inaccurate.
I knew it wasn't going to work. I was like, I can't wait to watch this implode because, like,
Keep Austin weird is a very real thing, and you brought this up, and I think this is like a nice anecdote of and I do think Texas has this going for them. We're going to talk about this in a future date because we're going to run up against time, but like there's an element of Texas. I feel this generally speaking in Tennessee and the Southeast also, which is like people are fine with you doing your own weird thing. Like they're fine. They're like are excited about you starting some company. I felt that a lot when we went through Y Combinator. That's a very subset group of the Bay Area population or people who are there. But like, it's what everyone was doing. Everyone was doing that. Everyone was starting a company. Everyone was doing it. So there was not like a weirdness at all. And I do think there's an element of Austin specifically that is like you doing some weird thing is normal. And then you doing that in pursuit of, you said like your American dream thing. Like, I think that's right. I think that but I kind of think, I don't know. I don't think that anyone has a monopoly on that as probably my big take. But I do think there are areas where because of traditionalism or I say this not like politically, but just like the population is more conservative. Everyone has like a normal white collar job, that kind of thing. It is like, dude, you're doing what? You're like working on a website, you're whatever. So I do think there are places like that. My gut says that would be the Midwest, not to throw these people under the bus again. But I think the Sun Belt, I think Texas, I actually think California is having a little bit of a revival. I think the
So,
Bay Area is having certainly a renaissance right now, and I think will probably continue.
I mean, I do agree that the Bay Area it's undergoing somewhat of a renaissance with, I think, AI is driving a lot of that. And so yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think people underestimate it's very lonely, right? Being an entrepreneur. No one understands you. No one your family's like, what the hell are you doing? Your friends are
No
like,
one knows
what
what
do
I
you,
do. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so it's very lonely. It's very and you are constantly plagued by self doubt, and maybe not constantly, but like you deal with, doubt and stuff like that. So community is, I think, vastly underrated for entrepreneurs. I think it's like, that is where the case for Silicon Valley and San Francisco continuing to be the hub, I think, is so strong. I do think that Austin, as a contender, I think it'd be my number one pick to emerge as the contender. I do think long term, I mean, there's a lot going for Austin, and San Fran does have a lot still going against it. If San Fran were to be governed better, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It would not be the number one place. Yeah, I actually think that's the biggest thing is community for sure. Which
speaking of community, that's well said, and you inspired me because just two more guys with a podcast here.
two more guys
Whatever
podcast.
we'll do it, I don't know. Call it a podcast. Do all guys just need a podcast? Like, is this like you mentioned like being whatever lonely? I'm not lonely. I don't know if you're lonely, but I think there's this joke now called a meme, but now we're part of it, which is like, there's nothing like a white dude in their 30s who, like telling you about their podcast they're starting.
Yeah, yeah.
We're part of the problem. Is this what we've become? Is this is this now what everyone just needs to do?
There's some great meme I saw where it's like you have four types of guys in their 30s, and like they pick up something, and one of them was start a podcast. So that's us, man. I need to find that meme and share it. But yeah, you posed this in a really interesting way in our doc. You said why guys need podcasts because we abhor therapy and rather air our trauma for the masses, which I loved. And I don't, it's not like it's not a loneliness thing. I don't, because I'm not lonely at all. I think like the bigger thing is I like talking about this stuff. I like talking about online because it's kind of like when I used to write, like when I used to publish articles for Ambition. When you publish something online, you have to like have a sort of like, it's like the stakes are higher. It almost like makes you, even if only like 20 people listen to this, like I feel like my mind is like sharpened, like just coming into this conversation because I know there's an audience of some kind around it.
There's
So
there's definitely something there. I was thinking about that when the inspiration or maybe like the nudge of doing this was like, us in Mexico, we're basically doing this, but there were like 10 people around us being like, these dudes are absolutely idiots. Like, what are they? How have they been doing this for like 4 hours? But like, and I didn't live this, but like my parents who are from Wisconsin, Midwest, like, the culture there was like after work, like everyone goes to like the neighborhood tavern. Like that's how they would say it. Like everyone goes to the pub or the tavern, depending on your neighborhood, depending on your background. And it's like, and then you would just do this with like whatever, 10 people, 5 people, whoever's there that night, Tuesday. And now we're all like so busy. We're doing our companies. I'm trying to be a great dad. You're doing stuff. You're dating, which we're gonna bring into the pod at some point. But like, you don't do that. And I'm like, is this the thing? Is this like guys
yeah,
in their 30s, whatever, used to just like go to the neighborhood bar and like argue and talk about the current event thing, and like everyone has their kind of corner, their spot. And it's like, is that this now?
dude, I love the direction you're going with this. I think it kind of is. I mean, for me at least, I can say personally, like I've lived my lifestyle. I think because of like my my work, the fact that I don't drink, the fact that like even like where I go to church, I've like kind of led this very divergent
Yeah.
path. And it feels in a way appropriate that like this is like one of my outlets is a podcast, because like this is like who I am. Like I publish things online. I work in tech. I
Yeah.
work all the time. Like I'm working crazy hours. But I think it's great because it goes back to like the need to go have a tavern where you talk to guys. There's some study I read years ago where it's like men need to like hang out with their friends at least twice a week, or they literally like they get depressed, or like there's some sort of like cognitive like impact from that. And it's funny because like even all the things I do in life, because like I don't have poor therapy. I actually go to I met my therapist
No
last
judgment.
week. Yeah.
Not judging.
No. And what it is I will go to I will talk to anyone who I think can help me with a problem or a question I have in life, where I think they're in a position to help. It used to be I would like keep things inside and not tell people. And now it's like I'll talk to you about whatever. I'll talk to anyone who will listen, who I trust their judgment. And so whether that's I've had like, great help insights from therapy. I've had great insights from like my priest. I've had great insights from like people in the 12-step program I'm a part of, my friends. So I've learned that like talking to other guys is actually like the best way for me to get better in my life. And I think it's cool if you can talk. Like the cool thing about us talking about this stuff is that maybe even like someone listening to it, like one day can hear something that gives them some insight, even if it's very minor, like the fact that Luigi didn't kill that CEO. So
You had to turn it down. I was like, that was a beautiful, well said, hopefully inspirational thing for people out there. Then you turned it, then you faded it.
it got too serious. I had to pull it back.
Well, I was gonna let it wrap up, and then I was gonna say, per usual, per at least the recent side. I'm the opposite of all that. I will
Yeah.
go. I want to just go stare into the abyss myself. Let the abyss stare back into me. I'll go, lift weights. Like if I'm at my worst and we lift it, I'll be exercising the hardest. Like
Yep.
I will try to uh, sink that energy into whatever other thing. But here we are doing this thing, and I think it's funny. It makes me wonder if we talked about this. I'm not sure if we talked about it on the pod yet, but we're both, I think, long on in real life and
Yes.
social situations and experiential things coming back, and to an extent, this is an experience you and I are now doing every week. And I think the more, especially men and young men, can be participating in things like this. I think, at least for my wife and in our social circle, women do this more. They're constantly communicating. They have these like, subsets of community. And I think you make a really good point that the guys need to seek that out more.
Yeah.
But well, you could just start a podcast. You could argue about, you could come up with plans to invade and or annex Canada
That's
and
great.
Mexico, and you'll solve the same thing. So you don't actually have to talk about your problems.
No, you don't. You can. That's the best part. Let's just talk about invading Mexico. But I hear your point, because like my initial instinct as a guy is to go to the gym and lift
Yeah.
weights and then go run 4 miles. But like I just, I'm like brooding there in the gym.
Wait, it's okay to admit that we all have this like deep hole emptiness inside of us. I'm just trying to fill mine with caffeine and creatine and bench press
Nicotine.
reps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Just any type of team.
Yeah, no, I'm all for the teens. So, but it is funny that like you're right, because I don't actually have to talk about my problems if I normally don't at all with like at least not my friends. I really would just rather talk about invading Mexico, or the fact that I made like the fantasy playoffs in our fantasy football league and you didn't. So, but that's okay.
I'm on a bad streak. I'm on a
You are.
multi-year uh downfall. I don't have the energy or the pride to even defend my team anymore. I want to kick it to a wrap up topic because I was interested in this, and I'm curious. You mentioned, which is funny to me, you being a single man, not having currently, your own nuclear family, but you want to bring back family coat of arms, and you want this to be a thing that we in modern society are doing. Can you
Yeah.
explain what that
Yeah.
means?
Dude, it's so important. Like, so I was at Thanksgiving dinner in South Carolina with my family, and they had a family friend over, a couple, and their daughter was there. And their daughter is an artist, and I was like, "Well, what have you worked on recently?" She's like, "Well, I designed kind of like a crest for this college," and I was like, "Huh." I was like, "Could you do that for like a like just a person?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dude, why do we not have coat of arms and family crest still? Like, are you even a real family if you don't have a coat of arms or a crest?" So I literally am commissioning. I'm meeting with her, I think next week. I'm commissioning a
Really?
Boudinot family crest. And do I have a family yet? No. But, see your future, be your future, BT, as they say. So the Boudinot family crest is going to be in the works. I'm really stoked about it. Like, you get to choose. Like, the way she's going to do it is she's going to ask me like a bunch of questions about the fam. And I'm going to just tell her that she's going to like design it based on,
Do you have a
just,
color palette? Do you like a preference?
man, I
Do
don't
you want
know.
this
See,
to look like a warrior-esque? Are there themes underlying it? Like, I'm thinking about like old school English or,
yeah.
you know,
I'm,
Western
I'm
European crust.
I'm vacillating between going completely hands off and giving her like total creative control and just
Yep.
letting it come out. And then alternatively, just being a total Nazi and like being like, no, I need the colors to be this. I need like a stallion and like, like a knight and stuff like that and all that. So I
I,
don't know.
can we somehow live stream the commissioning, the meeting, the like?
We could, yeah, we can do
I'm
that. Once,
imagining you're like on a whiteboard and she's like, "So what like things mean a lot to you?" And you're like, "Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't even know. You stallion is wild. What like what?" You're
like a
like,
horse kind of like raised up, you know what I'm saying? With like the like hooves in the air.
you're
That's
like,
a move.
I come from the flat lands of the Mississippi Delta. Like we emerged from the swamps of Germantown, Tennessee.
I mean, it's going to be like Jesus on one side and then John Morant on the other. There's this going to be some wild ideas thrown about. No, I'm pretty stoked about it. I am going to take it seriously. I am going to try to make it like badass. So like I'm paying for it. So it
How do
has to
you
be
think
good.
the conversation goes? Here's my last question. How do you think the conversation goes when eventually you're gonna find Mrs. Right, Mrs. Future Food Night? And there's been all these, courtship rituals, whatever, and then one day you're like, by the way, let me introduce you to our future family crest, and then showing this thing. How do you see that go?
Well, I mean, first of all, the family crest is going to be prominently displayed, in the apartment here. I've already got a spot picked out for it, so she's going to see it pretty quickly.
So this is
If
more of a conversation starter on, early phase of the relationship.
Pretty much, like she's going to come over and she's going to see that thing, and she's either going to walk out the door or she's going to love it. And that's it's really a testing ground, if you will.
I'm gonna just throw out a couple images for you to just rattle around, just to hold on to, because now I'm mentally, I'm seeing this vision of a silhouetted, river scene. There's a glorious pyramid on it, as the place that we that we were
Bass Pro
reared,
Shop.
and there's just a phoenix rising from the from you know from the silhouette of this town. On the eastern shore of a river, and that's you. That's the Midnight Clan.
I kind of love that. Actually, you're working in all the places I've lived very nicely. So I'll talk to Rachel about it, my designer.
When I say Phoenix, maybe it's an image of a phoenix, but it may be more of like an American eagle.
Mm.
Push the Texas branding here a little bit somewhere.
American Eagle with the flames, like the Phoenix, but then also holding a gun. I think is that's Texas. That's like we're hitting all in one right
They don't
there.
have hands. I mean, you could have it where it could be could have a holster. Maybe you could have like spurs.
Yeah,
We'll workshop this a little bit. We'll
we'll
keep this.
workshop it. I kind of actually want to make two versions. I want to have like the real version, then like the absurd version. And I think the absurd version could definitely have the screaming eagle with the boots and the holster and the gun on it.
The coat of arms. Yeah, when you donate a ton of money to, well, RIP Germantown High School, but wherever institution, you like force them to change their mascot to this thing. Like
Yeah.
you have to change it to this visage of whatever, the Boudinot Eagle.
Yeah, and they're gonna be called whatever they're gonna be the so and so Boudinets, like the Germantown High School Boudinets. It's gonna be great, man. And I got to jump, but dude, great
Fantastic.
conversation as
Hey,
always.
have a great one. Thanks for sharing all this. This was had a great time this Wednesday morning with you.
Yeah, me too, man. We'll publish this soon. Everyone, stay tuned, like and subscribe. We'll be back next week. BT, you're the man, buddy. Have fun
We
there in
really made it.
Tennessee. We
Thanks,
really mean
man.
it. See you guys.